Zach Edey is out for the Memphis Grizzlies because of course he is. We're not allowed to have nice things in Memphis. What this means for the Grizzlies, how Ja Morant's impending return can offset the absence at least somewhat, and we'll preview Grizzlies-Jazz on this edition of Locked On Grizzlies. Let's lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to this edition of Locked On Grizzlies. It is Friday. You have got to get down on a Friday. We are having fun. Looking forward to the weekend. I'm Joe Mullinax, and it's hard to finish that with a lot of excitement on this particular edition of the podcast because as fun as Ja Morant's likely return against the Jazz will be, it definitely comes with a 7'4", 290-pound asterisk that we'll talk about on this edition of the show. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. As proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, YouTube. Help to Michael Cole, my co-host, unable to be with us for this edition of the show for reasons that will be painfully obvious if they're not already obvious. Help us make this a part of your NBA and Memphis Grizzlies content consumption as we are proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network out there, and we're so grateful for the role that you play in us being a small part of that reality for our beloved Locked On Podcast Network. Zach Edey, unfortunately, out due to injury. The word came from the Grizzlies at a time that certainly stings, right? The Memphis Grizzlies announced the following medical updates. Zach Edey has been diagnosed with a stress reaction in his left ankle. He is expected to make a full recovery following a period of offloading and rehabilitation. Edey will be reevaluated in approximately 4 weeks, and further updates will be provided as appropriate. Ouch. This is my Grizzlies Joker origin story. Literally, as Ja Morant is preparing to return on 12/12, giving away tickets and being questionable officially for the contest. We'll talk more about that here in a moment. Finally, we are going to get the opportunity to see Ja and Zach this season for an extended period of time. Finally, we are going to have a chance to get a taste of what the future of Memphis Grizzlies basketball could actually be. Thanks to rotten ankles, the reality is that is not going to be happening anytime soon. Now, I do want to preface all of this with the understanding that the Memphis Grizzlies are doing exactly what they should be doing. This is from Michael Cole, wonderful co-host, Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal. Again, co-host of Locked On Grizzlies, not able to be with us for this edition of the show because with Ja Morant likely returning against the Jazz and the Zach Edey injury, he's got a lot going on. He posted this on X. Zach Edey recently told me that he was dealing with some soreness after games in his ankle, but it didn't sound like a major thing. Not sure if this is related, but it's a major gut punch after Memphis started going on a run with Edey back. Yes, it is definitely a major gut punch. There's no denying that in any way, shape, or form. Just as the Grizzlies were getting into a groove, just as Memphis was finding their footing, winning some basketball games, just as positive energy was returning to the franchise in such a way that you could realistically be optimistic about Ja Morant's return because you saw what sophomore year Zach Edey was capable of in the National Basketball Association, despite the point, the fair one, that the competition has not been as difficult for the Grizzlies as they've gone on this run. It's better than the alternative of them losing these games. So you have Memphis primed and ready to solidify themselves, not just as a play-in team, but a team on the outskirts of the playoffs. And what do we get for our hope? A big squadoosh. Zach Edey out due to an ankle injury. That, again, the correct call to be proactive with this. And you can always tell who Shams Charania at ESPN is getting his information from. He was very quick, old Shams, with his news update, and he pointed out, in fairness, it was from Mark Bartelstein of Priority Sports, sports agency that represents Zach Edey. This is from Matt Shamstrania on X of ESPN. Memphis Grizzlies center Zach Edey will be reevaluated in 4 weeks with a stress reaction in his left ankle. This is a management plan to optimize Zach's long-term health in consultation with the Grizzlies and medical experts. Following this step, the short and long-term prognosis for Zach is excellent, Bartelstein added. I would imagine that the agency is going to put that spin on it, but friendly reminder, Zach Edey is 7'4". Zach Edey is almost 300 pounds. Zach Edey is a very large human being, and when very large human beings have issues with their feet and their ankles, it is worth noting. Certainly not going to hit the panic button. It would be irresponsible to, at this stage, say that Zach Edey is prone to this kind of injury and it's a wash. Obviously, we're nowhere near that space. However, the reality of the situation is that you have to be extremely cautious. Just like you're cautious with a calf strain for a Ja Morant or a Ty Jerome, you're cautious with foot and ankle injuries like this with a big like Zach Edey. So even if it did just kind of, oh, my ankle's sore, and then he gets evaluated, and it turns out to be something more, you want to make sure that you are handling this on the up and up on the front side. You don't want it to become a lingering issue that can become a more immediate threat down the road. As painful as it is for the Grizzlies to watch someone who has had a remarkable start to their season have to sit for a month, this is the right call. And they would be wise to be on the later end of that 4-week reevaluation, because you don't mess with the lower extremities of bigs. What does this mean for the Grizzlies? Without Zach Edey, it likely means Jock Landale is back in the fold. It was an afterthought in the update about Zach Edey, but John Conchar injured his thumb and he's out indefinitely with a thumb injury. So now you lose two important rebounders, Zach Edey being the biggest, literal and figurative loss on that end. But as much as I make fun of John Conchar, don't sleep on that loss with Edey also being out of the fold. Two of your better rebounding players on the roster are no longer available. So who's going to pick up that slack? A Cedric Howard? A Jock Landale? We know how Jock Landale, the starter, went before. It wasn't great. And Jock Landale logged a lot of those minutes with Ja Morant, who likely makes his return in this contest coming up against the Utah Jazz. So where does the optimism come from? It's hard to feel it, right? It provides opportunities for other guys, which we'll talk about later on in the show. But the fact of the matter is this: you are now in a space where you are depending heavily on what Zach Edey brings to the table, and it cannot be replicated. Recreating something in the aggregate is cool when you have an aggregate to recreate. A 7'4", almost 300-pound big cannot be recreated. There is no screen setting, there is no rebounding, there's no crashing the boards or doing it by committee. It's not possible. That's one of the flaws of building scheme around somebody as unique as Zach Edey. So Jock Landale needs to be allowed to do the things that he has had success with. We can't say, oh, Zach Edey's out, time for Jock to be the screener and the big rim presence again. He's not good at it, especially being a rim presence. You can't do that again. There has to be some tweaks to how this team started the season compared to now being without Edey going forward over the next 13 games or so. That is where Tuomas Isalo has to show his coaching chops. Now is the time where you have to look at your personnel and figure out, how am I going to get the most out of what I have? You can't simply say, oh, well, hell, I guess we're screwed. We don't have Edey, so what are we going to do, right? The Grizzlies are very firmly in the play-in mix. If they want to continue to be in that conversation when Edey does eventually come back, they are going to have to do better than they did the last time they were without him. And that means getting more out of Ja Morant. That means getting more out of Jaren Jackson Jr. That means allowing for Jock Landale to succeed in certain spaces. And it means for wings like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Cedric Howard and Jalen Wells, they have to step up and create opportunity for themselves to be bigger, literally and figuratively, than they actually are. You cannot recreate, you cannot replace a Zach Edey. And that is going to be a major challenge for this Grizzlies team if they are not prepared to make some adjustments with him out of the picture for now. Hit me up on X. Let me know in the comments, how are you feeling about the Memphis Grizzlies being without Zach Edey? I'm sure it's not good. Memphis is going to miss him tremendously. How do they survive? That'll be a topic that we talk about throughout the next several episodes of Locked On Grizzlies. When we come back, on a positive note, Ja Morant, questionable for the Jazz game, almost certainly back in the fold. How can he help offset some of this Zach Edey absence? Stick around here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Zocdoc. Guys, it's 2025, almost 2026, and those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor, they're over. There's no more walking it off for 6 months. No more pretending that weird shoulder stiffness is just sleeping wrong. It's time to take your health seriously, and Zocdoc makes that easier than ever. Because staying healthy is more than hitting the gym or eating right. It's actually about getting things checked out when something feels off. Real appointment times are listed, including same-day visits. Scheduling is made easier with Zocdoc, looking for in-network doctors and booking right from the app. It also makes it simple for you to keep your health a priority. Even with a busy schedule, you got all sorts of things going on. If you're anything like me, this is a crazy time of year. Zocdoc makes it possible for you to keep your health on the up and up, even while maintaining a busy schedule. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments and get the care you need. Go to Zocdoc.com/LockedOnNBA to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA, Zocdoc.com/LockedOnNBA. Go and check them out today. What are you waiting for? Go do it now. Stop waiting. Go check out Zocdoc now. You may be aware that Locked On Grizzlies is a proud member of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day, and we're grateful to you for making Locked On Grizzlies your first listen of the day and making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Grizzlies with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Make sure you are going and checking out this URL. It is extremely important to do. Make sure you are going to lockedongrizzlies.com. That is lockedongrizzlies.com. Or excuse me, lockedongrizzlies.supercast.com. That is lockedongrizzlies.supercast.com. One more time, lockedongrizzlies.supercast.com. Or you can go to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer and become a member of the Everydayer Club. Zach Edey's injury kind of took a lot of the joy away from the return of Ja Morant, at least for some on social media, because no disrespect to Ja Morant, Zach Edey has been more impactful on winning so far this season. Ja Morant has been certainly impactful on winning over the course of his NBA career, and the one win that the Memphis Grizzlies have this season against a team with a winning record, the Phoenix Suns, was in large part because of the play of Ja Morant. So Ja's back in the fold. We know the song and dance with Jock Landale out there trying to do his best Zach Edey impression. Doesn't necessarily allow for Ja to be the best version of himself. How do the Grizzlies, without the dominant screener and presence that is Zach Edey, get Ja Morant going offensively? It's going to be a wonderful test of Coach Isolo, someone who I haven't been fully bought into if you are an everydayer here on Locked On Grizzlies. I think he is inflexible, or at least he has not shown the capacity to be flexible yet. Now, it is December in his first season as a full-time NBA head coach. Patience is a virtue. This is a tremendous opportunity for Tuomas Isolo to not necessarily go back to the way things were, but within any scheme, regardless of the sport, there has to be some malleability. There has to be some capacity for it to be altered and changed when injury calls for it. And this would certainly be a time for injury to call for it, because the Memphis Grizzlies, as I mentioned earlier, you can't replace Zach Edey. He is unique. He is the biggest, when you combine height and weight, player in the entire National Basketball Association. Wembanyama's taller than him, but not nearly as thick. Is that the right way to put it? Thick. Zach Edey is the biggest dude in the league. You can't take Jock Landale and add an injured John Conchar to him, and boom, you get Zach Edey. That's not how this process works. So Ja Morant is going to have to find other ways to get space created. And that's going to be a challenge. We're going to keep it real here, because Landale's not the screener that Edey is. But in fairness to Ja, Jaren Jackson Jr. is not the screener that Edey is, and Jaren has never been a screener, much less somebody that interacts well in the two-man game with Ja. We're not talking about Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray here. That relationship doesn't exist, at least not offensively the way that you would want it to between a big and a guard. So how do you get that room for Ja? It has to be in unique circumstances. I would advocate for him playing off the ball a little bit more, especially in situations now that Vince Williams Jr. has more experience in that facilitation role. I would seriously explore starting Jaren at the 5 and allowing for your team to go small and have another facilitator like a Vince Williams Jr. stay on the court. And when you are giving that kind of opportunity to a Vince Williams Jr., it enables Ja to play off ball more, to be a slasher. I'm not advocating for him to be a dribble spot-up shooter. When I want Ja off the ball, I want him getting the ball from different angles. I want him not having to be that primary point of contact, because it's going to make defenses have to defend more of the court and respect what Ja is capable of from more than just the top of the key. Can the Grizzlies find ways to get Ja involved and engaged early on, getting him to his spots? It can't just be a system for system's sake. It has to be something that is built around the talent of the players that you have available to you. And right now, Zach Edey is not available. We can say he's the most significant Grizzly moving forward, but Ja Morant will have a chance to retake that throne if he can be the Ja that the Grizzlies will need him to be without Edey out there. Now, that's going to be a tall task, but Ja has shown the capacity. It's time for Ja to rely on his handle. If he's not the explosive athlete he once was, I think that's a little bit of an overreach. I think he still has that explosiveness, but if you subscribe to that thought, that handle will allow for him to create some of that very valuable space that a Zach Edey screen would provide that won't be there with Edey out of the fold. And you have to give players that have offensive talent chances to show that in spurts. Give them opportunity. This is a great chance for Gigi Jackson to re-enter the chat. Not to play center, but to be an offensive weapon that if opponents are going to prioritize limiting Ja, they have to respect Gigi, or if they don't respect him, Gigi's going to get open looks. Gigi has a 6'9" frame that has the capacity to be a potential screener. Again, he's not going to be Zach Edey, but maybe you set some double screens. You make guys fight over Jaren and Gigi, or Landale and Gigi Jackson. Put them in advantageous situations to find mismatches. Ja has to be given opportunity to both on and off the ball find space that is made for him and made through his movement off the ball. If he is not able to find those screens and come off of pin downs or come off of backdoors cuts and make easy shot opportunities, then it's going to be a long night for Memphis, not just against Utah, but moving forward without Edey. And speaking of easy opportunities, Ja's got to get out and run. They have to get out in transition. They have to crash the glass and push the pace. Make the opposing team, starting with the Utah Jazz, have to deal with you moving them back onto their heels. If you just let them get comfortable and find their footing, this is not going to be a half-court offense to fear. Because Ja is not a three-point shooter that you have to be fearful of. If he's not making his mid-range jumper, they collapse the paint and there's nothing there. Ja has to be given the chance to not allow defenses to get set. Don't be complacent. And don't just check a box that your big screener, your big rebounder is out, and, I hope Jock Landale can do it. That's not fair to Jock Landale. Landale has shown that he can hit threes. Let him be a pick and pop screener. Why does he have to be somebody that is trying to emulate something that he's not capable of being? You have a scheme. You have a system. You have a talent in Ja Morant that I don't know about you, dear listener, dear viewer, but I refuse to believe that this guy is that far gone. This game remains extremely important for Ja to remind people of what he's capable of. He doesn't need to go for 30, 10, and 10, but he should go out there hoping to prove a point. And that point is, when healthy, I am still one of the very best on the planet at doing this line of work. Without Zach Edey, that's going to be harder to do, but if Tuomas Isalo is willing to get a little creative, and if Ja is willing to be open to expansion, I think that the Grizzlies can survive this absence. What do you think? Can Ja get going without Edey on the floor? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on X. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, closing out this episode of the show, talking about tonight's contest against the Utah Jazz. Friday night, got to get down on a Friday. Can the Grizzlies get a win without Zach Edey, but with, more than likely, Ja Morant? Keys to the contest coming up. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. And this is a time when a lot of us look to the messier parts of running a business and think that there has to be a better way. And there is. Today's Locked On Grizzlies brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O. It's the smarter way to run your business communications. I love Quo, and you will too. If you're ready to make your workday smoother and keep customers connected without the headaches, Quo makes upgrading your setup easier than ever before. It's surprisingly simple. You can work from your phone or computer, keeping your existing number and adding teammates in minutes. Having calls, texts, and voicemails in one clean view keeps everything organized and helps you stay responsive. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies also brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. Whether it's Falcons against Buccaneers trying to figure out how an NFC South matchup is going to play out. The Buccaneers are the favorites. Can the Falcons hold on to cover? A receiver can get hot, a defense tightens up, momentum can flip after a turnover. FanDuel allows for you to jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly, player props that update as guys heat up, and you can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and so much more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Closing out this edition of Locked On Grizzlies, ending our week. We've talked about the Zach Edey injury. We've talked about the impending return of Ja Morant. Now the Grizzlies play basketball again for the first time in several days, taking on the Utah Jazz. This game matters for Memphis because it gets them one step closer to 500. And as insignificant as that might seem, that is a mountain to climb in and of itself when you have had the injuries that Memphis has had, when you've had the circumstances that have hit the Grizzlies throughout this season. Just getting to that 500 number, considering all the adversity they've faced, would be an achievement. Without Zach Edey, it's going to be harder. We talked about getting Ja Morant more involved off the ball, creating opportunities for him. Somebody who dominated the Utah Jazz last season that hasn't had that many dominant opportunities this season is Jaren Jackson Jr. And this is a game where Jaren should be allowed to feast. The Utah Jazz do not have a single player that can go man for man, pound for pound with Jaren Jackson Jr. Every single person that they throw at Jaren is going to be a mismatch in some way, shape, or form, whether it's lateral quickness, whether it's size, length. You name it, Jaren will have the opportunity to score on it. Jaren has to be given that chance. But in fairness to Tuomas Isalo, Jaren has to be receptive and available to what Isalo needs done within his schemes. Jaren has to be able to pass out of dribble penetration. Jaren has to be able to get to a spot that is not necessarily his favorite and not be as regimented in his movements. He's predictable, Jaren Jackson Jr. is. How do you get him out of that rhythm and allow for him to work to a different beat? I talked about this on 92.9 ESPN with Gabe Kuhn earlier today, or on Thursday. Thank you for having me on, by the way, Gabe. Jaren marches to the beat of his own drum on the offensive end, and it's allowed for him to have success. He was one of the most significant isolation scorers of the basketball in the NBA last season. That's not the party this time around. Jaren has to be able to march to the beat of another drum. And Isalo needs to be able to, within his system, within the schemes that he has developed, put Jaren in positions to be successful. It can't be this is the way it's done or it's the highway. Not when you're down the quality of player that the Memphis Grizzlies are down. and not when you have a scheme that is so dependent on a big setting screens and rebounding that is not on the court. There has to be some flexibility, and Jaren has to take some ownership of being an accountable, physical big, attacking the paint, getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line, taking advantage of easy scoring opportunities. They don't just come in transition, right? They can also come through physicality, getting to the free throw line, drawing fouls. Cedric Howard is going to have to step up, and it's asking a lot of a rookie. But he's cooled off a bit since he entered the starting lineup. It's an opportunity for him to be looked at as someone that's going to have to knock down open shots. Because you take out a Zach Edey and all the gravity that Edey possesses, and you add back a Ja Morant, comparable but different kind of gravity. So Coward's going to have open shots. Jalen Wells is going to have open shots. Those two guys, as they get their opportunities, are going to have to take advantage of those looks and either hit, knock down, open, dribble, one dribble and shoot kind of shots, or they're going to, again, similar to Jaren, get to the rim, draw contact, get to the charity stripe, get free throws, get the Jazz in foul trouble, play your pace of game on your terms. And then the Grizzlies bench just got a heck of a lot more important. The Grizzlies reserves, Cam Spencer, Santi Aldama, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Without John Conchar, you're going to need somebody to kind of step up in that space. And assuming it is Jock Landale, seamlessly as he can, going into the starting lineup for Edey, Vince Williams Jr. goes to a reserve role. Is Vince Williams Jr. able to create offense for the likes of KCP and Santi Aldama? Who gets those minutes and those opportunities beyond Landale returning to the starting lineup? Who gets those minutes? Is it G.G. Jackson? It ain't going to be John Conchar because he's out too. So how Memphis fills that end of rotation situation is going to be worth monitoring and watching. The Grizzlies have a chance to experiment a little bit going into this contest with the Utah Jazz. They have the opportunity to take a look at a team that is not actively trying to win, at least not organizationally. The players for the Jazz, of course, are going to try to win, and Will Hardy is, of course, going to try to win. You don't tell coaches that they're tanking. I get all that. But Utah is not built to compete. The Memphis Grizzlies, even without Zach Edey, especially at home, are built to compete. But it has to be something that from game to game, matchup to matchup, possession to possession, they're going to have to piece things together. How do you put yourself in a position to truly embrace the flexibility it's going to take from game to game and opponent to opponent to be able to maximize the talent that you have on your roster? That's a test of coaching. That's a test of players' execution when game plans have to be varied. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Make chicken salad out of chicken, hush your mouth, right? However you want to phrase it, Memphis has a choice to make. Do they want to say, woe is me, and not be able to adapt and then eventually die, at least their regular season playoff hopes? The play-in could even fade, depending on how poorly things go without Zach Edey. He is that important. Or do John and Jaren step up and say, wait a minute, we're healthy. Wait a minute, this is our team. Pardon me, Zach Edey, but we've been here in Memphis since 2018, 2019. We're the veterans in this situation. We're the ones that are going to take it upon ourselves to make sure this season stays on the positive trajectory that it's currently on. Thanks for sparking a resurgence, big man. We have you for the next month or so. We'll keep the watch. The Utah Jazz are a good opponent to try to find that rhythm with. Can Jaren and Ja and Isolo and the rest of these Memphis Grizzlies get on the same beat? That's the question and the thing to keep an eye out on. Thank you so much for being with us on this edition of Locked On Grizzlies. Obviously, the next time we are together, we'll be talking Grizzlies-Jazz and all sorts of different situations that occur coming out of the weekend, maybe some more injury updates with DeMichael, things like that. Make sure you're subscribing, following Locked On Grizzlies so you get all the latest episodes, and make sure you're following me on X at Joe Mullinax. Did Locked On Grizzlies make your Spotify Wrapped? Maybe it wound up in your YouTube stats. Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we will drop you a code. Make sure that you are also going to be the first one of the Everydayer Club members getting your favorite show, Locked On Grizzlies, ad-free and getting exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you that are on video, we will send you to the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you're making your second listen NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. Thank you so much for being with me on this edition of the podcast. It is much appreciated. Make sure that you are enjoying everything Memphis Grizzlies content with us at Locked On Grizzlies. Check out DeMichael's work, my wonderful co-host, Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal, over at DeMichael C on X. I am a senior contributor over at Beale Street Bears. In addition to my work here, follow me at Joe Mullinax. Lots of good content from us and others, but always be sure to be an everydayer and hang out with DeMichael and I each and every time that an episode drops. Until next time, welcome back, Ja Morant. Get well soon, Zach Edey and John Conchar. We'll catch you next time here on Locked On Grizzlies. See ya.